welcome back to the Awake Nation. Penny L.A. Shepherd, executive producer, co-host David Zublick here with you, and happy to be. And we're going to be bringing in our next guest in just a couple of minutes. Before we get started, I do want to remind you, if you are looking for health insurance and have been priced out of the health insurance market right now, there is a way that you might be able to afford it, and we have found that way, and we'd like to tell you more about it.
What is healthcare sharing? I'll tell you what it is and what it is not. Healthcare sharing is a concept that has been around since the early 80s, but has grown significantly in recent years. Reason is that for many families, individuals, and small businesses, healthcare sharing has become an alternative to the high cost of health insurance. As a result, hundreds of thousands of families across the country come together through the magic of technology to share the burden and pay each other's medical bills. Now, to what it's not, it is not insurance. In fact, as opposed to insurance, healthcare sharing is a nonprofit approach that enables families to access affordable healthcare. And for most families, healthcare sharing can save them over $9,000 a year compared to average insurance plans.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about this, there are two ways you can do so. You can go to our website, theawakenation.com. On the right side of the page, go to Sponsors Row, and you'll see a little box for Impact Healthcare. Check it out. It'll take you right to the website where you can learn more. Another way is to participate in a question and answer session by being invited to a seminar. We'd like to invite you to a seminar, okay? But if you'd like to be invited, I want you to send me an email to david@theawakenation.com. David@theawakenation.com. We'll put you on a list. We'll send you an invitation, let you know when this Zoom call is going to be. It won't be more than 20 minutes, a half hour at the most, but you'll have an opportunity to have your questions answered and see if Impact Health Sharing is right for you, and it'll help you save some money. Okay, so go to theawakenation.com and click the link to Impact Health and send me an email to david@theawakenation.com, and we will get you some more information and give you the opportunity to have your questions about all of this answered, okay? Now, that being said, let's get some headlines going, and there is so much going on right now. Let's get to it. Controversial TikTok star Kyle Marissa Roth is dead at the age of 36. What killed her? Check it out. Assange's wife accuses the U.S. of weasel words after they issue assurances in extradition bid. Pfizer admits mRNA jabs contain nanobots that permanently alters your DNA. UK Prime Minister Liz Truss sounds the alarm. The New World Order will do anything to destroy Donald Trump. Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, drops a bombshell. Fauci, he says, created AIDS in the 1980s as part of a depopulation experiment. And the British government is getting ready to make cigarettes illegal in the UK. How long before something like that happens here? And that is the Awake Nation News headlines. And let us now bring in our next guest, Dr. Rita Louise, and her wonderful website, goalhealer.com. Dr. Louise, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to our conversation. Okay, so I heard what you wanted to talk about, but I had to make a commentary based on the headlines that are scrolling on the bottom, and you mentioned it, about making cigarettes illegal. And it just kind of makes me crazy. It's like, so you can drink and you can smoke weed and you can do all of these things. You can eat like 500 packs of Oreo cookies and have diabetes, but they're going to make smoking illegal. And it's like, well, they already make you a second-class citizen. You're like the deplorable smokers that have to stand outside in the street to smoke. And I'm like, geez.
Well, they're going to make smoking illegal, but they don't make it illegal for children without their parents' consent and change their gender. I mean, how do you like that?
Right.
I remember when they made smoking illegal because I played in clubs all over the place, and I used to have to come home from the club if I was out in, some weirdo city like Butte, Montana, where there was an elephant that was just released there the other day from the circus. They were chasing after it. It's a very small town. But I would go home and I would wash my clothes because they smelled of smoke. And then when they banned smoking, I realized I'm allergic to smoke. And I'd been in those clubs for years, but I didn't realize it until they banned it. And then I would go into another area where they were smoking, and I realized I was actually allergic to the smoke. But I agree with you. Why ban smoking? And also, Dr. Artis says that he's not advocating smoking, but he says that tobacco is actually good for you.
Nicotine. The nicotine is what it says.
Yes.
In tobacco is good. So whether you use a patch or something along that, because apparently people who smoked suffered less, believe it or not, as crazy as it may sound, since COVID was a lung thing. People who smoked did better with COVID than people who did
the nicotine receptors which it attacked. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, I was in Colorado. Okay, so here's a secret. So I'm a smoker.
Oh, okay.
They're evil people. And I'm walking down this main street, and I had gotten off the plane, took the shuttle to the driver, took me to my hotel. And I'm like, I'm going to go walk in this little downtown area and, enjoy it. So I light up a cigarette and I'm walking down the street, and the police stopped me.
What?
I'm serious. They're like, you can't smoke here. And I'm like, I'm outside.
You were outside on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Wow.
So apparently in that area, they banned all smoking, but marijuana is legal in, somebody explained this to me after. Marijuana is legal in Colorado. And so they had to ban all smoking because, they couldn't separate out like smoking weed.
I see.
Smoking a cigarette. But I was like, when you get stopped by the police and it's like, but you're smoking. And I'm like, wow, I didn't.
Right.
We're going to give you a ticket.
Everybody post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh my God. Well, again, I think people should be able to do whatever they want within the realm of not harming anyone else. I can understand. I think smoking is ridiculous. I've never smoked a day in my life. I don't drink. I have none of those. My vice is coffee. I mean, I do love coffee.
Same
but
here.
now I got some good news about that yesterday. They say coffee is actually beneficial for Alzheimer's, certain types of cancers, that sort of thing. So if that's my worst fault, and that and chocolate.
It's not a panacea, but it's actually a cure somewhat for ADHD.
The caffeine.
Mm-hmm. What were we just talking about? Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, but I want to get into this other topic. Now, this is interesting. We came across a story. You want to put that up on the screen, Penny? Do we have that?
Yes, let me see. Let me go
apparently,
back.
Men are spending millions of dollars every year investing in apps that give them artificial relationship billions. $1 billion market for AI girlfriends. $10,000 a month they're spending on fake relationships. Now you can get these apps at the App Store and the Google Play Store, and you create your own. I don't see any of these apps for women for men. In other words, I don't see any apps that women can create a guy.
Oh no, there is one. There is. That was another part of the story, which because I had to cut out sections of the story. But yes, there's also apps for an AI man. It reminds me a lot of The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger, in which his co-pilot has a hologram girlfriend which sees to his every needs. And I'm not sure how she brings him a beer and then also does, sex acts on him. But that dystopian future is here. It's here now.
I mean, the whole thing to me is on one level kind of weird, but not really shocking. People, I mean, there's the whole pornography industry, so there's that piece where you don't necessarily need to have a partner in order to get satisfaction. How's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
But with something like this, I mean, I used to go into chat rooms when they were the thing, a million years ago, and there would be people in there that would have these virtual relationships
Oh,
with
yeah.
other members, and it would be this, and I'm going to say emotional affair, and they were connected and very tight to this person, but they had never met in real life. And so this makes it so you don't even have to like meet the, you don't even have to find like a warm body to like you back, because this is going to automatically like you. Which
Well,
is just
and that is the, I guess, the allure of these relationships is the fact that, number one, you won't be rejected, right? Allegedly, unless the
Right.
AI gets
I'm
out.
just thinking, yeah, when the AI grows with its intelligence, right, and then it does have kind of a mind of its own because it's been established. What happens when you get in an argument with your AI girlfriend? Do you terminate her?
But I don't know that you would get in an argument, because the AI would mold itself around your personality. It wouldn't have a personality of its own, I would think. And so, if you're mean and cranky and complain all the time, it would just, my thought, I haven't never played with it, accept that as part of you and be loving and supportive regardless. Be the ultimate AI doormat.
Right. Well, I mean, if it attains sentient abilities, which it says that it can, and then you program it like data, right? Data gets programmed with emotions, and then it has a wider spectrum in which to, David played a little bit with one of the AIs, and
I wanted it. This story goes back a while. I got onto the App Store and I said, I want to see how this thing works. So I downloaded one. And believe it or not, it starts to get a real personality. And I deleted it immediately. It scared the crap out of me. Because, I'm happily married. I don't need anything. But I mean, it was really weird. And it becomes clingy. I mean, it starts sending you messages like, hey, you haven't talked with me for hours and all this kind of stuff. Okay, boom, goodbye.
right.
But if this thing were to get like a sentient ability where it could actually develop a mind of its own and make demands of you.
Yes.
Meet those demands. It could get, we're seeing these things.
Do you remember when you took it and you said you decided that you were going to see if it could do something evil, and so so it created an alter persona. I think it was Devil Dan, and Devil Dan wanted to kill humanity.
Yes. Yeah.
So what if this AI now has all your proprietary information, knows where you live, knows your phone number, knows your email addresses, has the ability to, did you ever see Job, the lawnmower man?
No.
Okay. The lawnmower man was about this diminished capacity individual, and the scientists wanted to increase his capacity, and then he superseded everything and later on integrated into the internet to be in everyone's home.
Yay.
Yeah. And so if you have a malevolent, or a sentient programmed AI, is it possible that AI could flip its switch at one point and turn evil and then malevolent and seek you out and, kill you somehow? That's where I go.
Well, I mean, taking it to that place, it's really easy for my mind to go wherever. Everybody is inputting like Alexa or Google products in their smart homes, or there's the computer in your car where you can sit there and automatically access like North Star or whatever that thing is. It's like, oh, we can start your car for you, And so those systems are accessible. And I was just watching this show, trying to think what it was. Oh, it was Elementary. It's a detective. It's an older show.
Yes, I know it.
And, they had gotten in trouble with some people. They were pissed off at them. And now like Joan is signed up on all these dating sites and puts her address out there. And now they're getting all this stuff and like 20 pizzas delivered. And so if it went malevolent, there's so much stuff that's online that they could just set up accounts for you and do all kinds of stuff.
Bankrupt you, and and then send threatening letters to the police. I mean, anything is possible. I try to look at both sides, the benevolent, but I kind of like look to the malevolent, the best, and the worst of the worst. Plan for the best, but expect the worst. And you can't expect the worst unless you allow yourself to go there and figure out what would the worst thing happen in this situation, and then be prepared for that.
Well, and then there's the program learning, but taking your line of thought, there could be somebody that could develop a program that's very similar and market it, but really it is developed with nefarious goals. We already have the spammers, that are trying to get information from you. And it's, and this could just be like a portal to get information.
Well, the NSA could use it as a form of honeypotting.
Yes, they for sure. They do. Also, there are dating apps that ask you to upload your contacts. What's that about?
I didn't know that. I know.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
I investigated dating apps.
Well,
I'm not on any, but I did this for a specific reason. David knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I went behind the scenes just to see, what was going on in this particular one. There's a lot of fake people there. I love the even on Facebook you find the people that they're dressed up in military uniforms. I love those ones, and they come to you, and it's always the same script. I saw your profile, and this is just for everybody that's out there. I saw your profile. I think you're fascinating. Can we be friends? And my answer is no.
And especially if they're from or they're allegedly in the United States Army, but they're in the Middle East somewhere.
They're somewhere in Nigeria, and they. So be aware of all these particular scams. And then we have now, Dr. Rita, to contend with the AI bots, in which they're all over the place. Our associate producer, Heather, has told me about, they've actually cloned her account. And so people think that that's her asking for money. And they also there's bots there, that they are AI bots. And I don't know whose account is behind them, but they're soliciting, friendship, etc. And take that into the, what is the sex working industry going to be like with AI bots?
Right.
It'll be right up there with the tobacco farmers. It'll go away.
So then no more real people, because there was a dystopian, I forget what it was. It was a Fringe or one of those Netflix things in which that people didn't have communication with any others any longer, that our communication abilities would be like you and I right now. We're talking in real time, but, do you ever meet that individual?
And it's really been moving that way more and more and more, so I moved to a small town and somebody was complaining about it. They live in the same town. And they're like, oh, it's so boring. You don't meet any real people. Like, we can't have like a deep relationship and blah, blah, blah. Because they were very spiritual, and
yeah.
And I was like, but at least if you go out, people. I've mostly lived in big cities or, the suburbs of big cities. And, I work for myself, so I didn't know anybody. At least now it's like, maybe they're not my bestie. I mean, I do have really good friends that I click with, but they are acquaintances and they're nice people. And I know that so I had gotten COVID and I was laid up. And then after, two of my friends in particular, I said, yeah, I got COVID. Well, did you do a test? Did you do this? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, no. They were like, you should have called us up and we would have got you the stuff and we would have left it on your front door. You need to promise us that you'll do that next time. And it just like made my heart sing because they were so concerned about me. Where, many other places you live, you don't have anybody. And the people that you do know are just so, them. and even though I wouldn't say like they're my besties, but there was this level of care and concern that came from them.
Yes, and when I lived in San Diego and I lived in the same condo for 25 years, I did not know my next door neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
did know that they had a dog named Satan. So
most
there was
people
that.
don't. I mean, I live in a regular neighborhood in a suburban, in a house and everything like that, and I know who my neighbors are. I mean, I see them, but you don't really know them. The guy could be building a bomb in his garage for all you know.
True. The only thing that I knew about one of my neighbors was that he had a dog named Satan. And
That's not good. Satan.
I used to talk to Satan all the time, and actually that saved my life because I remember the kids coming in and saying, Satan bit me, and I was like, okay, what were you doing to have Satan bite you? and one day it came into a standoff in which my husband, who is a retired police officer, stood outside. Satan wasn't letting us out of the house, and he had gotten out of the backyard. And so my husband stood there with a gun pointed on the dog, which is ready to attack him. So I went upstairs because the dog knew my voice. I went upstairs on the balcony and I yelled, Satan, sit down. And he sat down. And then I was shaking. And I told my husband, go in the house. And then I went out and I said, Satan, get thee behind me. And I and I led him to his backyard and let him in. But had I not talked to him every day when I, got home from my gigs at 2:00 in the morning, he wouldn't have recognized my voice and he wouldn't have listened to me.
Mm-hmm.
But the Satan get thee behind me thing, just for anybody that's out there, it works. Say it. When you get attacked by Satan, say, Satan, get thee behind me. And it works.
Get thee behind, get thee to a nunnery.
Get thee behind me.
Well, anyway, so that's the deal with the fake relationships. But now as an intuitive counselor and one who has dealt with people in real relationships,
yes.
What is the biggest problem that you see that people have in maintaining a good relationship with a significant other? I would think it would be lack of communication. It always gets back to that for me. If you can't talk it out, or you don't have an understanding in a meeting of the minds, you can't at least discuss with one another, that is where all the problems seem to start. Am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. Many times, and I'll just use me as an example, so something happens, now I'm upset. And so instead of saying, hey, you did this, or, you left the toilet seat up again, or whatever, I walk around with this little grudge inside of me and inside of my heart, which from a very energetic perspective, now I have bad energy and I'm projecting that bad energy to you because I'm pissed off because you didn't put the toilet seat down. But now you're receiving that and feeling this like funky vibe for me, but you don't really understand. And so you pull your energy back and it becomes this whole weird dynamic versus just making the communication and saying, hey, you didn't put the toilet seat down. And then it can just be a done deal and you can relax and they can relax and you could move past it.
Yeah, that and obviously the toilet seat is a little thing, but it can be it's important.
How much does that bad energy contribute, Dr. Rita, to your health?
Okay, that's a detour. So if we walk around and have like a lot of negative energy inside of us, a lot of negative thinking, we always see the world half full or not full at all, or we have very catastrophic thinking, so something happens and we take it to the worst possible scenario. I'm going to die. I'm going to, be homeless or whatever. We end up living, our thoughts and emotions activate hormones inside of the body, and so if we're constantly in this trauma stress place, we're living in a sea of cortisol and other stress producing hormones, which have a negative effect on the body.
With the communication thing too, do you find that one sex over the other is less. It's been my experience being a man that men have a tendency to be less communicative than women. They're more reserved. They keep more things to themselves. They, as a general rule, do not express a lot of emotion. Whereas women, wear their heart out on their sleeves and tell people, and their biggest concern, I'm faulting the men on this, and I am one, is men, number one, are, as I said, are not communicative enough. They don't open up, and they also don't listen well enough. Men seem to have a listening problem. I mean, and I'm talking about active listening, where you look the person, your spouse, your significant other, in the eye, listen to what they have to say. And sometimes, and this is a lot to unpack, so you can go wherever you want to go with this. I find that the woman doesn't really want a solution. Men have a tendency to want to fix things.
Right.
A woman says something, the guy's kind of only half tuning in, and he says, well, just do this. And that's not what they want. They want you to listen, and they want to vent. They don't necessarily want someone to solve their problem. So there's a lot going on here with the men, right?
This is true. And I think part of it is, as a society, we're not taught to communicate. I mean, obviously, some people are better than other people at communicating. I think between women tend to just like dump their dirt.
Yeah.
Right.
To other women in general. So they have more experience with it. And I think women are more sensitive to what they're feeling and what they're experiencing, and are able to put words to those sensations, and kind of the term tied to that is emotional intelligence, where the person is able to access and tap into their emotions. And so a person can be identified as being more emotionally mature if they have higher emotional intelligence. And so if you choose to not communicate, then, it's not that you don't have high emotional intelligence, but it makes it a lot more challenging, because it leaves the person in the air not knowing. And if they're not knowing, that creates stress in them. It's like, well, what's really going on? And are they mad at me? What did I do? Because we always sit there and internalize it and go, oh, there was something I did. And it might be, there was something that happened at work that really upset them, and they come home with that, I'm really upset. And if they just sat there and said, well, I had a really bad day at work and I'm upset, then the partner could just go, oh, okay, and navigate around and navigate past that. But if they come home and they're cranky and they're really distant, then it leaves you, the other person, in a guessing game of trying to figure out what's going on. And did I do something wrong? And did I leave the toilet seat up? And, this whole thing. And so the other person doesn't get resolution.
Yeah, and that goes to what Penny was saying just a moment ago. Emotions need to be not only experienced, but expressed and shared with others, because otherwise it bottles up inside of you. And I think we have a real problem now in society with communication skills, because we've gone from a society where we talked to one another to one where now people don't even, you realize that people on their phones no longer leave voicemails. It's all texts. They want the minimum amount of communication possible. They want to put it in 3-letter words, BRB, be right back, LOL, that sort of thing. They come together at the kitchen table, a whole family or a group of people go to a restaurant to sit around, and each one of them's on their phone talking to somebody else. They're not communicating with each other. When somebody, when I have a business thing that I want to do with somebody, I usually leave them a voicemail because I want them to hear my voice and the expression of my emotion. But a lot of people will just text you back. It's like we've gotten to a society where we don't want to be engaged with anybody else, and that can lead to a lot of serious problems.
Yes, in relationships, you see a lot of the high-profile relationships where one partner will come out and say he broke up with me on text.
Ugh.
You're like, wow, okay, that hurt.
You know, and I can't even relate to the sitting around the table with your phone, because that in my household is just not really acceptable
I would,
behavior. I mean,
I would
it's one thing to check your phone periodically, you know, if it's an extended dinner thing, you know, like Thanksgiving, but to just sit there, not really happening, you know. And all right, I don't like voicemails, because to get through the voicemail on my phone, it's like, hey, you had a call from this number, brr, 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 and it came in at this time and it's this long. It's like a freaking minute just to get through the introduction to get to the voicemail, which is annoying to me. But if somebody calls me, like actually picks up the phone and calls me, I will always call back. You know, and that's just my, you know, well, you took the time to call me, I'm going to call you back.
Right. Well, in regards to voicemail, David, I have visual voicemail. So,
like you do. Yeah,
so when people call, I read the text.
yeah, it's transcribed. I get the same. I do the same thing,
But
but
sometimes it transcribes it really funky.
yes. What do you mean you're going to murder me? What's that?
Right?
All? Like,
Why are you going to murder me? I don't
said,
understand.
I'm stopping at my mother, not my murder's house. Yeah, I know.
It's like, what? What did you say?
That's why you got to put your voice to text too before you send a voice text, because sometimes, yeah, and sometimes that I've sent you stuff and it's like
What?
Yeah, what is that? What do you think? Is he drinking? No, I don't drink. So bad text. That's all.
But I'd like to go back to the AI thing again. So, in response to we've discussed about having relationships, you know, will AI effectively, in your estimation, at some point take over for any human relationships? Is that where we're going?
You know, so that's kind of, you know, I'm going to put it in this way, like kind of a predicting the future thing, you know, and then there's the path that we're on and the choices that we can make. And so we can make the choice to go down that road. And if we choose to go down that road and don't say anything, yeah, that's a very strong possibility. And it is a strong possibility. It seems like, and this is not just AI, but in a lot of other areas where people will just sit there and go, oh, well, this is what we're going to do now. You know, like the government or some company, oh, this is what we're going to do now. And we just go, oh, okay, and move forward. You know, and I'm going to go back to like the Alexa or the Google smart home. You know, I have people that are like, yeah, but it's convenient. I'm like, there is no way I'm going to have some little listening device in my house that can unlock my doors and do all of this stuff ever.
Did you ever watch the movie Glass House?
Oh, I've seen that one.
Right? You know,
I haven't. I own that on DVD.
Right.
The original Glass House. Yeah.
Yes.
But, you know, but they're like, okay, you know, and they're choosing to take that road. And so, I mean, we all have that choice, but I think this stuff is put out and young people get a hold of it and young people access it and they think that this is the norm and this is okay. And so they're kind of brainwashed into
this is my future.
It's right up there with like getting up and changing the channel on the TV with the little manual knob. It's like, or you see those videos where they put a phone, like a rotary phone, in a room, and they're a teenager.
What is that?
And they don't know how to do it.
Yes.
I just feel that you know, our communication skills are so bad as it is, that with the implementation of you know, the AI, it's literally is this our future? Because we, you know, now dating in today's world, you literally have to say, all right, did you take the vaccine? You know, do you have any social diseases?
Have you always been a woman?
Have you always been a woman? Have you always been a man? I mean, you know, I sent David something last night. I didn't even think about it at the time, like how it would impact him because he's a man. But it was this guy that was holding his little testes and two little bottles. Look, I now have a vajayjay. And you're just like, what?
Yeah. he had a
You know?
sex change operation, and he posted a picture of himself holding his testicles in his hands.
And
that he
says,
just had
now
removed.
here's my boy, here's my husband, and now I have a vagina. And you're just like,
Oh,
and so
And we accept it.
yes,
We just sit there and look on it in horror,
Right.
or this like, what the heck is going on? But
I mean, there's a lot of ugly men pretending they're women. I don't know what has happened with our world. It has significantly changed from, Leave It to Beaver. Significantly changed. We're not in black and white, we're in color, but we're in horrific color these days.
oh I
it's
just
got
had
green
a terrible,
faces.
terrible thought
and
joke crossed my mind. I can't even say it.
But it makes me think of
I know what I can read your mind, David. I know exactly what you're thinking. Don't go there.
No.
But this whole compliance makes me think of men competing in women's sports, or men that identify as women competing in women's sports. And there's this acceptance of it, by women, not just men, but by women, and if the playing field was even, it would maybe be one thing, but you don't see any women competing in men's sports. And I don't know, I had my dog clipped when he was 16 weeks old, so he don't have no testosterone in him, but he's one solid little boy. How's that?
Yeah. Right.
And it's different.
I wanted to bring up
no one complained, and now there's some athletes, women athletes, that are going to the forefront and saying, "Hey, this needs to stop," and it's not fair, and it's degrading to women, and it's like, and they get blowback.
Yes,
which I think is shocking.
I wanted to bring up an article which I have. Is breaking. Federal Appeals Court reverses West Virginia's transgender sports ban. A federal appeals court in West Virginia has halted a state law preventing students from joining single-sex sports teams that don't match with their biological sex. On April 16th, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals handed down a ruling blocking the implementation of Save Women's Sports Bill. The court found that the law infringed upon the constitutional rights of a 13-year-old eighth grade track athlete. Now, this is what I want to bring up, who was assigned a male at birth. Okay, it was assigned male at birth, but identifies as a female. West Virginia Governor Jim Justice signed the measure into law back in 2021. However, the American Civil Liberties Union swiftly contested it. In court, they filed a lawsuit on behalf of Becky Pepper Jackson, the transgender student who was barred from joining the girls' cross-country team. The ACLU argued that Becky Pepper Jackson identified as BPJ in court documents, diagnosed with gender dysphoria in 2019, and underwent puberty blockers and subsequent gender-affirming hormone therapy, thus bypassing male puberty. As a result, they argued she does not possess any athletic advantage over naturally born girls. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I look at my dog. He don't have no male hormones in him, and
but he's still a boy, isn't he? It doesn't.
He's still a boy. He still acts like a boy. He has the muscle mass. I mean, so I'm a poodle person, and so I've had two female poodles, and they were not buff and stocky. He's a buff little boy,
Right.
So
even if you change your gender,
and it's crazy.
If you change your gender and you were born a male, and they said assigned male, really? Yeah, God assigned you as a male. Okay, that's the way you came onto this earth. But now they're saying assigned.
You can be a male,
right?
Yeah, you're a male.
You're a male. So it's just my understanding. I mean, look at Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn, right? Very, adept as he was what was he, a triathlon?
Triathlon.
Yeah.
Okay. So he has muscle mass that a female is not going to have ever. So just because you reassign and they cut off his testes and build him a, vajayjay, you're not a woman. You are a biological male that decided that you are going to make your make yourself into this female, but you're not going to have ovaries. You're not going to have babies. You're not a female. Even though they built you a artificial womb or whatever, you can't, you cannot procreate as a woman. Now, would it be possible? I'm going to ask you this one. They create an artificial womb. Can they do in vitro fertilization, or it's never going to happen?
So what's the question?
The question is, they take a man, they give him an artificial womb. Can they inseminate via IVF that individual, and can that individual have a baby from an artificial womb? I'm going to say I don't believe so, but I'm going to ask you, is that a viability?
It would need to be very advanced tissue stuff. I mean, because the embryo attaches to the wall of the uterus and it pulls its blood supply from the uterus, which comes from the mother. And so in order to have it implanted into the human body, how's that? My thought would be it would be a pretty intense surgery in order to hook up blood flow. And if it's an artificial womb and not a transplant, like if it was a transplanted womb,
yes,
I could see where that would maybe work.
Because that's what they're petitioning for. They are petitioning, the men are petitioning for transplanted wombs, which how are they getting that from a woman? Are they getting that before when the woman's declared brain dead? And then they can get the tissue. How is that happening?
They have to have eggs. It has to, the womb that they have has to be able to ovulate and create the eggs for that to be inseminated. Or are they going to use somebody else's?
No, they would use somebody. We're going to have to ask Dr. Panos this question.
Yeah, they would just implant the embryo. Well, that would be a very interesting day where it becomes a medical necessity to have, and you get on the list, to have a uterine transplant.
Do you think that's where humanity is? Do they want men to be able to bear children and just do away with women?
I don't know that I can make my brain go there and entertain that possibility.
I mean, I try to look at all different scenarios, good and bad, as I stated before. Unfortunately, our news these days is kind of on the dark side, but it's reality. Unfortunately, we don't have sunshine and flowers a lot to discuss, but we do have to look at all different scenarios. So I look at the positive scenarios because I have O positive blood, so I'm positive. I'm a positive person.
Well, it's oh man, we're heading down a very dark road. I got to tell you, getting back to the AI thing a little bit the other day, I saw this Instagram or TikTok video with this guy's like, you see him driving in a car, and he's going, Alexa, what is the weather forecast today? And the woman says, who is Alexa? He goes, oh, I'm sorry, I mean Siri. And she goes, no, who is Alexa? That he's talking to another woman named Alexa. So it's like, oh, wow. So that's where we're headed. What if you get two AI? A guy gets two AI girlfriends and they become jealous of each other. Ooh.
Because they're both on his phone at the same time.
They blow up your phone. They blow up your phone.
You mentioned, we're heading down this dark road. And I think that's, if it was just men and women's sports, who, in my opinion, a lot of them take the hormone blockers, but they don't move forward any further, so they don't necessarily have a vagina, they just are taking hormone blockers and or if it was just the AI, or if it was just social injustice or inequality of punishment or whatever, all that political stuff. If it was just one of these things, it would maybe be one thing, but it just seems like it is this full frontal assault in every area of life and living, which makes it become kind of overwhelming and Orwellian, as you said.
How do you think how would you advise people to cope with all of the news that they're being hit with? How can they cope with some of it? Do you have any solutions for them?
I mean, breathe. Um, One of the things that I have to do, I mean, I'm just very sensitive. And so if there's like crazy going on the planet, it's like my body will pick it up. And then I'm running around going, oh my God, oh my God. And I think the best piece of advice is if you're feeling overwhelmed and overloaded, one, turn the news off and take a break. That would be the easiest thing. But then spend a little time in going, but is this me? Is this affecting me and my life? Because if it's out there and not you, then you can make a separation. It's like, I have food to eat, I have a place to live, this is where I'm at, and this is who I am today. And am I going to compete in women's sports? Probably not. So I can take that concern off the table for myself. And just bring it back to you and who you are, because it makes all of that be external, and turn off the news.
Do you recommend that people get outside, ground themselves, walk barefoot?
Yeah, I mean, go outside, breathe, go to the gym and exercise. People laugh at me, but I always throw in clean your house. I don't know. I always feel like when my kids were young and I would be really upset, I would always feel better after I cleaned a freaking bathtub. I don't know. I had this thing about like the kitchen cabinets and the bathtub. Put some music on and dance or sing. Singing brings your energy up over the heart and helps raise it internally. So anything that causes you to focus on something or an activity. And I find that if you feel like your body is feeling overwhelmed, so there's your thoughts feeling overwhelmed, where just the focusing will work. But if your body is feeling really triggered, going and doing something physical, going for a walk in nature, anything like that, where you can burn off that energy to kind of get the physical body to release what's going on. Do some yoga. There's a myriad of things, and figuring out what works for you versus what works for other people is really the trick. And what works today might not work tomorrow. And so just being open to asking yourself, what do I need to do now? Okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling overloaded. What do I need to do now? Not what other people say I should do, but what do I need to do now? And listen to that guidance and do it, because it will usually always give you the best advice.
Now, you're a naturopath. Do you offer counseling to people? And if so, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. So I do medical intuitive evaluations. I do intuitive counseling. I work with a lot of trauma survivors and people that are really struggling with emotional regulation as well as energy work. And they can get a hold of me at soulhealer.com. That's soulhealer.com, which is on the screen right there. Okay. And I work with people around the world. So it really doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to live in my little podunk town to get a hold of me and work with me.
Now you have a new book out too, right? Don't you?
I do. Wait. Bang. It was me all along.
I just love that title.
Which really helps people to kind of find themselves. I mean, what we were just talking about, the breathing and the walking in the woods, but many times we don't understand why we're reacting or why we're feeling overwhelmed and what we can do to change it. And so really that's what that book focuses on, is helping people to get back into the now and shift themselves, because what might have made you really upset with working with this practice a year ago might just become a blip on the radar. And I would rather have a blip on the radar and be upset for an hour and go row. I like rowing, and go row for a while and then be like, oh, I'm better.
Oh, you row?
Well, on the rowing machine thing.
Don't send her an oar.
No. Tell her the story. You got
Okay.
leave that alone.
So Susie, you met Susie on Beyond the Box. She has a ranch and she tends to her cows and her horses and the dogs. And so the river overflowed and she was in the canoe. I guess it's a canoe. I think it's a canoe. Could be a kayak. I don't know. And she didn't have an oar. And so she was using a shovel, to get down the thing. So when she came on the program, also she tipped over at one point, and every day she comes in with just some.
Do we need to send her a
that make me not want to go outside? Joel will come in with a look what I have. I'm like, I don't want to, and it will come in with this huge snake that they killed and chopped up with machetes, and I'm like, okay, not going outside. But anyway, so she didn't have an oar. So I said, anybody that wants to help Susie with her dogs, you can find her at bowarrowhorses@yahoo.com. I say, and anybody that wants to buy an oar for her because she doesn't have an oar. And so Susie goes, she texts me this day and she says, I got an oar in the mail. And I was like, really? So who sent it to you? She says, I don't know. And right when we're talking about it, David texts me and I go, I know who sent you the oar. She's like, who? I said, it was David. I said, David, did you send Susie an oar? He's like, yes, I did. And she used it.
Shovels are for burying dead bodies on your property.
Right. No, the shovel, right. The shovels were burying dead bodies on your property, Susie.
Well, I had a boat and we lost the oar, or the oar broke or something like that. So yeah, we paddled with a shovel.
You did
A
too?
little latrine shovel that was in the boat.
Huh. Okay. That makes absolute sense. Well, they had a big, huge shovel and it was heavy. And I looked at the price of like wood oars. I was like, wow, those are pricey. But that one works perfect. So
yeah, I
David,
found a little plastic one. It seems to work fine. So
yeah. So thank you so very much. She's not up Schitt's Creek without an oar anymore.
And that's.
I'm reading the headline. Aaron Rodgers drops bombshell. Fauci created AIDS, and I'm like, Aaron Rodgers is just interestingly moving into the whole political scene, which
yeah, he is. Well, he was considered for VP under
right.
Robert Kennedy Jr. But
but that was just kind of when I heard that, I'm like, wow, that's pretty left field sounding. I don't really know his political leanings or anything, but.
No, next time we're going to talk a little bit more about your training, your psychic training.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to, you have more than just one book, correct?
I have 7.
Wow. They can purchase them on Amazon. Can you tell us some of the titles?
Yes. So there is my newest book, Dang, It Was Me All Along. There is The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist. There is Dark Angels and the Insider's Guide to Ghost Spirits and Attached Entities, Avoiding the Cosmic 2x4, E.T. Chronicles, What Myth and Legends Have to Say About Human Origins, and Stepping Out of Eden and The Power Within. And all of them are available on Amazon if you would like a signed copy. You can get one directly from me. I can't offer free shipping, but you get a signed copy, but it's the same price. And before we go, I'd like to mention, and I have to tell you, so on Thursday nights, I do a live stream, and it's Thursday Night Live with Dr. Rita Louise. And I actually had one of your listeners come last week, and they were like, yeah, I heard you on David's show. And I'm like, woohoo. So Thursday Night Live with Dr. Rita Louise, and you can access it and join the chat room by going, the easiest place is by going to YouTube, and my channel is Just Energy Radio, 3 words, Just Energy Radio, and click the live button, and you can interact in the chat and get free on-air psychic readings from me Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central.
All right. So 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, do that. Just Energy Radio on YouTube. All right, Dr. Louise, we are so glad that you have come back to us and that you're a regular contributor. And we will, with all the myriad of topics that you delve into, we will have lots of great conversations.
Oh, for sure.
Yes, sir.
We look forward to having you back real soon in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys, and nice seeing you. See you next time.
Okay.
Dr. Rita Louise here on the Awake Nation Soul Healer.com is her website.
She's here every other week at this time slot on Wednesdays.
Right. She switches between her and Dr. Panozalos, right? I
Yes.
think that's what happened. Okay, so it sounds good.